This is my story of meeting Michael Jackson, our conversations together. Masturbation came up. I'm going to tell you everything in a moment. There's a lot to be said, guys. Here's a copy of the original drawing. Michael Jackson, or I should say Neverland, or his estate now has it. But Michael had it originally there when he called and had me draw this for him. Of course, I cleaned this up a little bit in Photoshop compared to the original. But that's the original art. This is comic book artist, writer, and director Graig Weich from BeyondComics.tv. I'm going to tell you what happened because I saw the documentary and I'm going to share some information. I went to school with Macaulay Culkin, his family, his brothers, Karen, everybody, Shane. I could tell you guys everything. We had a mutual friend in common who would always go to Michael's house. So I'm going to reveal all this to you. You can see the full video on YouTube if you're watching on Instagram. And subscribe, follow, and here we go. So let me backtrack before I tell you how we got to the story of what happened with the masturbation conversation and all this other kind of stuff. Again, I just want to reiterate, just if you're just tuning in or you haven't been to my channel before, I create comic book superheroes. And Michael was one of the first celebrities that I drew a portrait for, officially commissioned. It was an amazing kind of experience when Michael called me and when I met him in person a couple of times. So I'll take you through everything in order, and I will reveal the information now. And then you guys can judge for yourself whether or not you think the people in the documentary are lying or telling the truth. Okay? And whether or not it's okay to listen to the music of people, in this case like Michael. Should we completely deprive ourselves of the artist, of the art, based on someone's personal life, and whether or not they're a criminal? Do you see what I'm saying? So, for example, The Cosby Show is still an amazing show, even though Bill Cosby did horrible things in his personal life. So I choose to separate that, but I'll get into that later. First, let me tell you what happened, and I'll give you guys my honest assessment of everything. Oh, it's hard to kind of go back and take everything in order, but I will. So I used to go to PCS, Professional Children's School in New York City. I went to school with Dion Richmond from The Cosby Show, Macaulay Culkin's family, I guess I said his brothers. And one of the things that happened is that every summer I would teach an art class when I was a teenager. So at this point in time, it was very, very early 90s. Like not even, it was like probably like 92, I guess, or something like 93. It was, geez, what an experience. But I was about 17 or so, and our mutual friend, I don't want to say his name, but our mutual friend had been taking my art classes for a couple of years. He ended up going to my high school, PCS. He became very, very close friends with Macaulay Culkin, and they would go out to Neverland Ranch together all the time. Excuse me, I'm getting over a little cold. So one of the things is that our mutual friend would call me all the time and tell me everything. He would tell me everything that happened at Michael's house. Everything. There wasn't anything he didn't talk about. And I'm going to reveal that to you. It's going to blow your mind. But I'm revealing it to you because I think it's important to have a balance when it comes to what happened with the documentary and everything. So let's get right into it. Again, I was teaching art classes. This particular person was a couple years younger than me, about 15. I was about 17. He's on the phone with me. I would teach classes in the summer in between school. And he was like, hey, tell me the art assignment. Tell me, what I'm supposed to be drawing for the class tomorrow. And then he gets an interruption. He says, oh, that's Michael Jackson on the other line. Call waiting. I have to go. So I was like, sure, it's Michael Jackson on the other line. Yeah, like I said, look, if you don't want to do the art assignment, just tell me. And you don't have to do it, man. You don't have to pretend Michael. He's like, I'll have him call you. I'm like, yeah, sure. Okay, you do that. 15 minutes later, the phone rings. I'm like, hello. A part of my answering machine back in the day, for those of you who don't know, we had little mini cassette answering machines. So some of this message is actually recorded. About maybe 30, 40 minutes or so is recorded. I think about 30 minutes of the conversation I had with Michael. But the guy's like, hi, it's Michael. And I'm like, Michael who? He's like, Michael Jackson. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. I almost hung up on the King of Pop, right? Jesus Christ. But we're talking for like, we must have spoken close to an hour. And he was telling me he's about to prepare to do the Super Bowl and he's really excited about it. And what amazed me is that number one, his voice was a little deeper. It was totally him. The voice was a little deeper, like you hear on the recordings now. And again, I saw the documentary, all 4 hours plus the 1 hour Oprah thing. And in our conversation, he's telling me, wow, he's like, again, our mutual friend was saying, Graig, that you're a really great patient teacher. He says, and in his upbringing, he had very impatient, mean tutors and teachers, and how much that upset him, and that he was abused by his father. He was very open and very cool, and I couldn't shut up. I couldn't stop talking. I'm talking about Transformers and video games and anything I could do to keep Michael on the phone because I'm so excited. Michael Jackson's on the phone, the biggest superstar in the world. I was like, oh my God. I mean, it was amazing. It was amazing. And I remember that moment. He was like, at the height of his career. So again, just fast forwarding a little bit, the conversation was very cool, very normal. He sounded like a normal guy. I felt like I was talking to one of my buddies about, superheroes and Transformers and video games and all this cool stuff in his career. You know what I mean? And just amazing kind of things, it was like an amazing kind of experience. And then he, again, officially had me do his drawing, which I just showed you, which was a dream come true. And I remember I did that drawing with Crayola magic markers and different markers, all by hand. And I was just amazed at like the amazing feeling to draw for Michael. That he's going to have this. And he was like, listen, I'm going to give you a special code name that you have to put on the mail so that it comes directly to me. And I was like, oh my God, he's giving me a code name. I wasn't allowed to tell any. You can't tell anybody. It's top secret. I was like, okay. Now I could say it's Applehead, which I think a lot of you probably know by now if you've watched documentaries and things. But at that time, it was unheard of. And he's like, send it to MJJ Productions. I'm like, what does that stand for? He's like, Joseph is my father's name. That's my middle name. I was like, oh my God, care of Neverland Ranch and blah, 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 and Applehead and all this kind of stuff. Oh, wow. I mean, it was just a big deal. Like my folks and I were all like flipping out, man. We were like, this is amazing. It's incredible. And I just remember the joy because I was a huge Michael fan. I did like a little Michael Jackson dance back when I was 14 for PCS all school night and all this kind of fun stuff, So Michael's like everyone's hero at this time, especially. He's a part of like everybody's life, and to hear these disparaging allegations are so upsetting. But I'm going to tell you something that nobody knows. And I'm going to share it with you, and I think it might shed some light on the situation. It might be negative, might be positive, depending on how you look at it. So, again, this mutual friend is calling me, yo, look, turn on the news. They're like, Michael Jackson, is spotted in, I think in Europe and blah, blah, blah. And my friend was on the phone with me at Michael's house in, like, Neverland Ranch. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's ridiculous. Like, the news was lying. I was like, oh my God, the news lies? I couldn't believe it. You know what I mean? It was like fake news back then. So one of the big things that I was kind of shocked at was the next thing that he told me. And he was like, hey, listen, this is like back when Michael Jackson got married to Lisa Marie Presley. And he would call up our mutual friend. This is, when I say mutual friend, I mean a friend of Michael's, Macaulay Culkin's or Mac, and mine. By the way, it was amazing to be friends with all these people and stuff. Like I saw Home Alone 2 with, Mac, with Macaulay Culkin a few seats away. It was just everything was like an incredible time. It was like Magic Land. It was so happy. But again, our mutual friend would tell me very, very, very clearly everything that happened. He's like, yo, Michael called me and he said he had oral sex for the first time and it was so great. He's like, Lisa Marie gave him oral sex and it was an amazing feeling and had never felt anything like this. He's like, and that part of the conversation was okay. And then he says, but Michael said, oh my God, it's so much better than masturbating. Hey, have you ever masturbated? Right? So that was disturbing to hear because, again, I was about 17. My friend was a couple years younger than me, about 15. And when he told me that, there was kind of like a pause. Oh. And then my friend said, oh, hey, Mike, I really don't feel comfortable talking about masturbation. And then Mike responded by saying, okay. That was the end of it. Never brought up again. And my friend would stay over at Mike's house all the time. Mike would send him, gifts and presents and lots of, camcorders and to film, music videos or movies. And he was very supportive. And it was a shocking kind of scenario, And I remember my friend saying that he suddenly felt very uncomfortable. Like, why is Mike talking to him about masturbation? He's like, but maybe he's talking to me like, again, he was saying maybe Mike was talking to him like an older brother would talk to a younger brother. Hey, guess what? I discovered my genitals can do something other than pee. You know what I'm saying? So it could have been very innocent. But in this particular case, yes, the topic was brought up. And yes, Michael stopped it the second that our mutual friend said he didn't want to talk about it. That was the end of it. Nothing more. So now, the experience that our mutual friend had at Neverland with Michael and everything is identical to what the two guys, Wade and the other guy in the documentary, are describing. The only thing is that they are now describing the whole story to take you through it so that now you're really connected to them, and all of that's true. So the believability of their experience staying with Michael and being friends with Michael is completely true until they then tack on the sexual allegations, right? Are they lying? Is it a money grab? Well, here's what we know so far. Number one, we know that the first accuser of Michael Jackson, Jordan, I think Chandler's last name was, right? Or Chapman or something like that, but Jordan, right? We know that he was a young boy and his father wrote Men in Tights with Mel Brooks, right? And wanted Michael to fund his project. Michael would not fund his project. We have a recording of Jordan's father saying, we're going to sue Michael and get tons of money from him and we win no matter what. We're going to destroy him. We have audio recording of that, right? We also have the open statement when Michael settled out of court because it was cheaper to settle out of court than to fight in court. So he pays $20 million instead of $40 million. $40 million to fight or $20 million to settle. Either way, it's going to cost him money. So as a business person, you don't want to lose $40 million to fight. Of course, you're going to give $20 million to stop it. I understand that from a business perspective. Anybody, I think, would not want to lose $40 million. If you have the choice to lose 40 or 20, which you're going to choose. 20 is better than 40, right? Okay. But then Jordan comes out and writes a public letter openly to everybody, which you can Google, saying that his father did it as a money grab. His father just wanted money from Michael and that Michael never did those things and he felt bad lying that Michael touched him when he didn't. Check that out. You guys can Google it. Okay? So Jordan, as an adult, came out and said Michael never touched him and his father made him lie because they needed money for the family. There's a lot more behind that which you could read online. Targeting back to these two guys accusing Michael of molesting them. How easy would it be for them to take that entire truthful experience of them going to Neverland and being friends with Michael, and then at the end of it say, oh, and Michael sexually abused me? We don't know. Is it true? Is it false? We don't know. I think it's very important that all victims have a voice. But are these guys victims or are they scam artists? We don't know. So all I can tell you, and again, I mean, I met with and spoke to personally Corey Feldman, also one of Michael's relatives. I mean, I know a lot of people involved in this stuff personally. And nobody said that he ever did anything to them. Macaulay Culkin, his brothers, our mutual friend, Corey Feldman, me. He didn't touch any of us. He didn't speak in a sexual manner other than what I had mentioned to you, if you can consider that or not. So all I can tell you is he didn't do it to any of us, none of my friends, nobody. Maybe he did it to just these two. Maybe he just did it to those two people in the documentary, or maybe they're lying. Now, point of fact, they did lie on the stand, right? Or Wade at least lied on the stand. He went on as a teenager saying Michael never touched him or anybody. He defended Michael. That's a very important point. And now he comes out later saying the opposite. So we know he lied at least once. We know that for sure. We don't know these people. We do not know them, okay? So we cannot judge. We cannot say that they're telling the truth or lying. And we cannot say that Michael is guilty or innocent. We can't. So what do? How do we make sense of this? Well, we do know for a fact that both men who are in the documentary tried to sue the Michael Jackson estate for a few $1 million. Money grab. Okay, so we know that for a fact. Statute of limitations was up, they couldn't get the money. We know for a fact that HBO paid millions of dollars, like a ton of money at least, to have the rights to this documentary. I'm assuming $1 million. I'm pretty sure it probably was, but I don't know the exact number. But we know that a lot of money was paid by HBO to the director of the film and the producers, right? They claim the two guys in it are making no money or didn't get paid by it. I don't believe that for a second. I'm sure they have a private deal off the books where some cash is funneled to them for this. That's normal. How are you going to put your whole life story in a documentary and not get $1 for it? I don't believe it for a second, because they were suing the estate for millions of dollars. So we know that these guys are getting paid. Are they telling the truth, though? God, I hope they're not telling the truth, because that's devastating. It's a devastating thing. But their story is so believable. How? How could it be so believable? Well, because they really had a friendship with Michael, like my friends did, and like my little conversations and my meeting him a couple of times. I met him at the Tavern on the Green after his concert in 2001, which was amazing. Jesus Christ, to see him in person live. Wow. And then to go to the after party, that was such a fun, oh my gosh, so fun. And then also, of course, at Learning Annex, our mutual friend and I and my parents all went there to see him in person. It was incredible, you know. And I mean, you know, they had meet and greet afterward and all this other kind of stuff, but it was private, only for a select few. And you know, it was such an amazing kind of experience. By the way, if anybody has the video for Learning Annex when Michael came to New York, please post it. I have not been able to find it. I would love to see that. So again, let's go back to these accusers in the video and or victims in the video, okay? I think the only way to make peace with this is as follows. We don't know them. And until proof, solid evidence beyond the word of people we do not know, someone who also lied on the stand, we cannot make a judgment that Michael is guilty. We also cannot make a judgment that these guys are liars. So what I choose to do is draw a line in the middle and say, I will believe and support that these guys are victims, and I will believe and support that Michael is innocent until proven guilty. Very important. Because imagine if Michael really did not do these things and these guys are just scam artists trying to make a buck because they have a family and this is a quick way to make a few $1 million. It's a very believable documentary because they really had an experience with Michael. And yes, their family is crying legitimately because maybe the family doesn't know that they're making it up. Or maybe it's true. But if they are making it up, hypothetically, if they're lying, all they have to do is not tell their family they're lying. They just have to tell them, hey, Michael molested. And now their family's going to be heartbroken and cry and be upset about it. But it's a very kind of scary thing because I think naturally it's hard for us to believe anybody would lie so severely about this. But guess what, guys? Guess what? I was in a relationship with one of my exes from the past, and she looked me in the eyes. I was with her for 7.5 years and would lie and lie and lie. She couldn't stop. She just was a liar, a real pathological liar. And when I finally figured out that she was lying because she looked me in the eyes, I give my word on the graves of my grandparents. I'm like, wow. I said, why would you lie? Why? There's no reason to lie. She said, it made her feel alive. The excitement of trying to pull a fast one. She thrived off of it. I said, are you serious? She's like, I'm sorry, I know it's wrong. I have demons in my head, she said, but I have to lie. She's like, because it's fun and you're the only person to ever catch me, Graig. I was like, wow. I'm like, I mean, lie about anything. I was like, Jesus Christ, who have I been with all these years? It's devastating because to us, we can't imagine being with a liar or lying to this extent. Yeah, everybody tells a lie. Hey, that outfit you're wearing looks nice and it doesn't look so good. Or hey, your haircut's great, but it really sucks. That's a small little kind of everyday type. I'm talking some severe lying stuff. So firsthand, being with someone who's a liar, yeah, these guys could be lying. You know, these guys in the documentary could be lying. And we cannot make a judgment call either way because we don't know them. In the documentary, none of their friends are filmed. Nobody is filmed. It's really tough. By the way, if the video cuts off, guys, please make sure to follow and subscribe so you can see part 2. But I think the best thing to do is separate the artist Michael Jackson from the person Michael Jackson. Let's just keep it separate, guys. Let's just keep it separate, okay? We're not giving any extra money to anybody who has done something wrong if we already have their music and their art on our computer or on our iPad or whatever we're listening to. If we have an MP3 of their music, enjoy the art. Okay, I think separate the artist, again, separate the artist from the person. Okay, whether or not somebody did something bad has nothing to do with the magic of their creativity, whoever it is. For example, The Cosby Show is still an entertaining, enjoyable show to watch. It's a good show. Just remove Bill Cosby personally from the show. That's it. When I went to the Bill Cosby Show with Dion and my friend and everything, that Bill Cosby was super nice to us. We had no idea that he was doing any of that kind of stuff or those shenanigans. There was always a rumor that he and Lisa Bonet were possibly hooking up, and that's why she was off the show and all this kind of stuff. I don't know. But nothing about the allegations. So, again, let's separate it. You know, Bill Cosby is an old man. He's in his 80s. He's blind in one eye, right? So don't put him in jail. That's not going to do good for anybody. Let's actually take his resources and use the money he has to help victims. You see, that's what I think should be done. Turn a negative into a positive to the best that you can. But sticking an old crippled guy in a prison isn't going to do any good for anybody. His legacy is destroyed now, right? So what do you want to get? Let's stick an old guy in a prison? Stupid. We're paying tax dollars for that, right? How about taking his resources? He's a multi-millionaire. Take the resources and give it to victims and people who need it. Also, speaking of which, it's tough because there's a lot of good people who've done bad things. Bill Cosby donated to funds for people to go to school who couldn't afford it. I mean, he gave a lot. So he did donate. But again, if he did these horrible crimes, oh my God, it's so fucking